Welcome to another week of the Trailer Island podcast, where
Steve
and Matthew
and myself, Alex, talk about movies and their trailers. Did the film deliver what the trailer? What was it called?
Promised.
Promised
To expectations.
You did really well there. It's a good thing we're a
good.
few episodes in and people already know what our shtick is.
Yeah.
You'd think, if I did that in first episode, we'd be in a bit of trouble. But fortunately, this is episode 6.
Six, yeah.
People are still willing to put up with your jackanapery.
I'm not even going to question that. I'm just going to go with it. Thank you for your opinion, Steve. I really appreciate it. That's great.
I think we've had enough opinions after last week's episode, haven't we, though?
Yeah, that was a strong one. This week we're back to a regular film.
Yeah, well, I think it's quite a special film, though, isn't it, really? I think it's the fact that it was just made at all is quite special. But let's introduce it before I start gushing about it.
I thought you were talking about the fact that it's the third ScarJo film we've talked about.
Oh, well, there's that as well.
Especially because of that.
Yeah, there's also that.
Yes, we did talk about Marriage Story in episode 3, then Endgame in episode 4. We skipped Scarlett Johansson for episode 5.
And today's film is
Jojo Rabbit!
You boys will be involved in such activities as war games, ambush techniques, and blowing stuff up.
I don't think I can do this.
Was? Of course you can.
Hi. You know what I am? Say a Jew. Gesundheit.
Oh, God. Nothing makes sense anymore. Yeah, I know. It's definitely not a good time to be a Nazi.
Oh, it's such a cute, beautiful trailer.
It is.
I love it. Unfortunately, you probably didn't hear much of it because it's full of music.
Yeah.
So most of
very
that
copyrightable music
very
as well.
copyrighted
We
music.
don't want to get sued.
It does feature the German version of
We Can Be Heroes
by David Bowie, sung by David Bowie in
Yeah,
German,
yeah.
and the German version of I'm a Believer by the Beatles.
Monkeys.
The Monkeys.
The Monkeys?
No, it's the Monkeys.
It's the Monkeys.
Because
okay.
the Beatles are in the film, but they're not in the trailer.
Oh,
yeah, that's where
right.
you're getting
the
your
film
wires crossed.
starts with a
Yes,
Beatles song,
it
but
does.
the trailer for the film has the Monkeys German version. And
And
I
it sets
think
the tone, doesn't it, for the film?
it sets such a beautiful tone for this film. And as a trailer, I know we can't sort of conclude things already, but I really enjoy the trailer for that film and how it sets an understanding of what you're going to see.
Yeah.
So that was the trailer for Jojo Rabbit, which is a Taika Waititi film.
Can I say it again after the
Yes.
Mandalorian episode? Taika Waititi.
Yeah.
Hey,
The
well
confidence is
done.
coming
So
through with that
proud
one.
of you.
Well
Yeah.
done. And Jojo Rabbit is about a young boy. We're following a young boy, and he is a Nazi youth, a German boy living in Germany, as it were.
Towards the end of the war, I think it's 44.
Yeah,
I
I
think,
believe it's
isn't it?
1944. So historically, speaking, we know what happens around that time. Jojo is his name, and he has an imaginary best friend who is
Adolf Hitler.
Adolf Hitler.
And just by that, you can tell that this film is some kind of comedy. But it also has quite a heart to it as well, which we'll get to. But I think the fact that they've sort of gone to like, oh, who could his imaginary friend be? Who could be this sort of representing all the influences on this young German boy's life in 1940s Germany? It's like, yeah, Hitler makes perfect sense, and they play it so well. It never comes off as inappropriate, I think, is the way to describe it. Like, it feels like they did the right thing to get their message across. It's fantastic, and it's played well by Taika Waititi, also plays Hitler.
So
in
yes,
this.
he is directing the film, and also he did the screenplay for it. It is based on a book called Caging Skies.
I remember first hearing about this film when it got first announced. The pitch then, you didn't even need a trailer. It was Taika Waititi's new film will be a World War II film where he plays Adolf Hitler, the imaginary best friend of a young boy.
Absolutely. That sums it up for me as well, because I saw this trailer, now being a huge fan of Taika Waititi, having seen a few of his films, and to me, the trailer promised a film where it would be justified, but basically a film where this innocent young boy whose imaginary friend is Hitler, they will have scenes where they go running merrily through the woods together, throwing hand grenades. That was what I was promised, and that was what I got. I was like, wow, this is an amazing comedy. This is fantastic.
It also did hint at some very deep emotional things as well. Like as soon as they introduced the fact that his family, well, his mother would be hiding a Jew.
Yes.
And you go, okay, so it's going to be touching on a few deep little issues.
Well, you do
here.
automatically understand the implications of all that, don't you?
Yeah,
But
I think the historical accuracy within the film, that it's obviously the comedy is based off of that, is very solid, which is why I think it's instantly recognizable as to what the situation is they don't change history at all. And that's why I think it's very important that it's not actually Hitler in the film, it's his imaginary friend, is that you know the situation, and then with that you can sort of run with it, and they just do such a great job of putting their own twist on it, on this story.
You do need to have an understanding of history, don't you, to
Absolutely,
understand this film.
Yeah.
I think it would be difficult to find someone of our age bracket and demographic who doesn't know about World War II and the Nazis and Germany and the Axis and the Allies.
Which we should mention. We have highlighted the comedy. Obviously, that historical context is not funny. And it's not something you would immediately go, let's make a comedy about this.
No.
But I think it's because the film isn't about, isn't it funny that, Hitler's there and we got, Sam Rockwell and Rebel Wilson doing stupid German accents. That's not, that's not sort of, it's not doing it willy-nilly. It's not cheap. It's not doing it for cheap laughs. It actually has a lot to say about innocence.
Yeah.
And sort of in that kind of context. And I think potentially Taika Waititi's trying to think about the modern time in America, perhaps.
Yeah.
How if you grow up with a figure like that in power, that's sort of all you hear, and you don't get the other side of it. And there's a great moment, it's in the trailer, it's in the film, where poor Jojo finds out that, wait, we're the bad guys. Because he's raised to think that, Nazi Germany will save us all and will be great. And I think that is rooted in historical accuracy, and I think that's why it works. It doesn't make fun of that aspect at all.
I actually have a real soft spot for especially World War II films that really portray the German people to be the underdogs, like who don't really understand what they were a part of. Jojo Rabbit is a good example. Even like Valkyrie, that was a decent sort of. The German people are the ones that are oppressed. I'm not trying to make any definite. No,
it's a huge, broad topic. Obviously, yes.
And another one, Schindler's List, yet another one where the German people are the victims, and I love to see the sort of rise and the awareness that comes from this, and this is another great example of it.
I think the reason we're clearly so excited about it is that it has taken a very unusual route. Instead of playing it as a drama, it has taken the comedic route. And talking of the comedy, it's pretty spot on. So I've already mentioned Sam Rockwell, Rebel Wilson. Sam Rockwell is a legendary actor by this point. He's fantastic. This is the first film I've seen Rebel Wilson in where she literally had me crying. I thought she was hilarious in this. Usually I think, she's funny, but she's nothing that's ever really stood out to me. But in this, she just owns it. She's great in this, and she has some great lines, obviously directed quite well. And Jojo's friend as well, his friend of his own age, has some great moments, some great little lines of innocence. Yorkie, and he's fantastic.
Who is probably the only character that doesn't have a German accent in the film. They all do some sort of iteration of a German accent that you get it. It's a comedy. It's not meant to be totally serious. We'll come to that a little bit later, I think. But that didn't take me out of it at all. You got to also understand you're watching a film about basically the Nazi youth. And how do you make light of that situation? How do you make that acceptable in the 21st century politics and racial understanding of the world and all those sorts of things? How do you make a film that ideally doesn't offend just for the sake of offending?
Well, that's exactly right. And I thought, and I'm not trying to be funny by saying this, but I honestly never thought I would see a film where the Gestapo turn up at a doorstep and make me laugh. Exactly. To the point where, and they only have one scene in the film, I wanted more of the Gestapo. And that's just not right. It's just so weird. But the film does it in a way that you understand where the joke is aimed at. It's not saying, aren't the Gestapo... It's not, it's not doing anything inappropriate. And I think that's just a real testament to the quality of direction that Taika Waititi has done here.
Within about 30 seconds, though, you sort of go, they're in trouble.
That's it. There's still a threat. Like, there's still a very threatening presence, but it's so hard to explain because it's at one time hilarious, and at the other time you're going, I don't want... Something really bad could happen here, because we all know the Gestapo were not nice people. Well, they weren't nice people.
I never really thought Stephen Merchant had that range where he could be, at the same time, hilarious, yet menacing.
And so Stephen Merchant, because he's usually a behind the scenes, until recently a behind the scenes presence. He was instrumental in the British Office with Ricky Gervais, and recently he's become more of a forefront in terms of actually acting on screen. But I have to agree, I didn't know he could act that well, to be honest. I know he's a great writer, but he's a menacing presence in this, very menacing.
I suppose that's sort of the first point we're making, is that this cast is pretty extraordinary. Like there's no weak point in it. You've got Archie Yates who plays Yorkie. You've got Roman Griffin Davis who plays Jojo. ScarJo's in it. Stephen Merchant, Sam Rockwell, all those big names, and no one misses a beat.
No, they're all pretty tight.
I even loved Alfie Allen as Sam Rockwell's sort of offsider, and there's a bit of, I think, sexual tension
There definitely is, yeah.
between the two of them, which was just hilarious to watch. And there's all these little side stories, little stories about people.
They somehow make fun of, I think there's a stereotype of the camp German. They kind of use that, but in a very unoffensive way. You're still kind of on side with the whole thing. But talking of sort of German stereotypes, obviously, so Hitler is in the film, played by Taika Waititi.
As an imaginary character.
Not the Hitler, an imaginary version of him. And Taika Waititi is obviously a New Zealander. And even though he attempts an accent, it's pretty appalling. But the fact that I did not care is, and I think you've touched on this already, Alex, but he's just not the sort of person I think I'd ever pick to play a version of Hitler. Because in everything I've seen him in, he's been the goofy, lovable. And he kind of brings that to this initially in terms of Jojo's perception of his imaginary friend. And obviously as time goes on, we see more of what we know as the historically accurate Hitler, perhaps, as time goes on.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
But I just thought I can't imagine now. When I heard, I was like, oh, well, okay, he would play the part and it'll be funny, but I'll never sort of think, oh, he won't do a serious Hitler at any point. And then now that I've seen it, I go, okay, he actually kind of pulled that off. Mm-hmm. And now I can't see anyone else playing that version of that role. Like, he just owned it. It was great.
We have, as an audience, become aware of the Taika Waititi tone and look of a film.
Yes.
Thor Ragnarok was the film that really introduced the masses to Taika Waititi.
Yeah.
And he was able to put his tone on top of a Hollywood huge budget film and really saved the Thor character, I believe. It's a film we can talk about another time. He's started his career in New Zealand really sort of creating the stories about, just people. I did see there was a video online that I saw the title of, where the video itself was horrible, but the title of the video was really hit the nail on the head on how I was trying to explain to myself how I felt about his films, and that he creates happy, sad cinema.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so think about that. So happy, sad cinema, you've got these beautiful stories about people that make you laugh and really enjoy the film for what it is, but then it also really hits home about the situation that people find themselves in and the truly, in some cases, heart-wrenching consequences of life.
And he's been very consistent at that. So we were talking about the previous work he's done. I mean, I've seen What We Do in the Shadows, which is a mockumentary. That's quite lighthearted, but then to sort of balance that, he's done The Hunt for the Wilder People, which is also quite a whimsical film, but it has a really wholesome heart at the center of it. And then you were telling me about some of the earlier films he'd done, like, is it Boy?
There's a film called Boy, and Eagle versus Shark is another one. That's sort of his earlier feature films. And they're just little, almost, I want to say vignettes, but they're just small focus stories about people and a particular situation that they're in. And he does it really well to just focus on the little guy, the outsider. The outsiders in society and what actually kind of makes them special. And if we bring that back to Jojo Rabbit, the young boy, think about the focus of that for a second. A young Nazi youth who is fanatical about Hitler and Nazi Germany, and it's 1944 in the height of World War II. How do we care about a character like that? And the people around him? Because it makes you think all of those people seem normal. If you flip the flag that they were praising towards, you'd probably feel the same way.
He's done a really, really great job at making Germans in that era sympathetic. He's really sort of excelling at making coming of age stories. Hunt for the Wilder People was coming of age through and through, and he does it in two notes in Jojo Rabbit, and it's when Jojo sort of starts to discover that Nazism isn't all it's cracked up to be. And when he sort of realizes that Elsa, the Jewies, keeping hidden in his house.
Well, his mother is.
Well,
that is, I guess, the conflict of this film.
Yeah.
Is that he's a fanatic and his mum is harbouring an enemy of the state, a Jewish person, in their house. And when he finds out about that, that is the conflict in this story.
There's this big dramatic turn, like 3/4 of the way through, and he comes home, and he just sinks into Elsa's arms. That was devastating for me. That was heart wrenching.
I was trying to think about that moment you're talking about, why it sort of really hit home, and that is the knife that you feel is that moment of him accepting comfort from this person who at the beginning of the film, when he first meets her, he does not want there. That was quite emotional. But then it makes you laugh like 10 seconds later.
Yeah.
Like, it's a really interesting film for that. It's very interesting.
It is, yeah. I guess I don't think I really thought about it that way as a coming-of-age film, isn't it? You watch a film and generally the expectation is that a character will develop or change over the arc of the film, and we get that. And I don't think the trailer really sold to us the heart-wrenching moments of this film. Like, when there are particular things that happen that just make you turn and go, oh no, that is absolutely horrendous. And that is exactly what I'd forgotten to expect in a Taika Watiti film.
Yeah. And I think it's important as well, because those moments, even though we are legitimately having such a good time watching this, those moments do remind you, hey, this stuff happened. It's that kind of reminder that this is a historical context to this, and bad things happen to people. And I think that's why the film's so clever, is it makes you laugh and think, oh, this is silly, this would never happen now. And then it reminds you, well, it did happen in the past and it was awful. We need to make sure this doesn't happen again. It's sort of got a 21st century kind of message about it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of media out there that kind of keeps reminding you the Nazi Germans were terrible people, blah, blah, blah. And it was terrible.
Oh, yeah.
But sometimes you forget about the people who are just innocent, forced to do things. I don't think we can really truly comment on it.
We're not historians. We weren't there.
Historically really understand how these people experienced this situation. But the film does a really nice job of making poignant moments around the realities of war.
Yeah.
And even though it is portrayed to us as a comedy, you do get these moments where it really does... It doesn't pull any punches about the reality of the people and how it hurts.
But I think then to balance that, sometimes it does the same thing, but completely absurdly. There's a bit towards the end where Rebel Wilson is with some of the Hitler Youths, and the Americans are sort of coming in, and she straps this grenade to the back of this Hitler Youth guy and says, see that American over there? Go give him a hug, and pulls the pin out the grenade. And you think, Jesus, like, that is awful. But at the same time, you're laughing. Like, it makes you think about it. It really sort of creates the conversation. But it's that, I think that's kind of genius comedic writing, where you can be laughing and then a few seconds later go, why did I laugh at that? That is a horrible, horrible thing to do to a child who's so innocently going to go, I'll give him a hug because I was told to. But yeah, it's the comedy is I think really, really well thought out. It's very measured.
It's a very fine line to balance on, isn't it?
Yeah.
Between talking about children using suicide bombs and making you laugh, like how does that?
Yeah,
how does it work? But the film does it. It's groomed you in a way to enjoy it. I don't know if that's even the right thing to say.
I did enjoy the film, but now that we've just had that conversation, I think, was it right that I enjoyed it? I don't know.
Felt like towards the end of the second act, I was a little bit like, this is dragging on a little bit for me. I found the story was just taking a while.
They needed more Gestapo during that sequence, didn't they? They needed more of them.
Maybe it needed a break. I don't know, something to break all that up. But I do understand why it's there and what story it's telling at the time.
It serves a function in terms of narrative.
It does.
Another little scene on those notes is where Jojo's mother...
Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah, ScarJo. Where she and Jojo are just riding bikes. And they're following behind this army sort of truck that's carrying all these wounded soldiers, and the instant feeling is going, oh God, these poor men. You're thinking this about Nazi soldiers. And then ScarJo turns around and says, go home and be good to your mothers. And some of them start smiling, and you go, oh, that's actually sort of a sweet moment.
Your feeling is that these quiet moments do have their purpose and...
Well, I don't think it could be making you... And don't get me wrong, it's a legitimately funny film the whole way through, but it couldn't make you laugh consistently. There needs to be light and shade, and it needs to have actual characters. And I think it's rare, and this is obviously what Taika Waititi is extremely good at, is often you'll see a comedy that sort of places comedy above character development. Whereas this film, all the characters have such an arc. Even the side characters have an arc as well. They have their own kind of aspirations, and you sort of see where they end up. And I think it's odd to see a comedy that's legitimately so funny, but also just like if it wasn't funny, it would still work as a drama. The story and the characters are that strong that you could just play it straight. But they don't. They do it as a comedy, as an extra level.
And we're not just talking about Jojo here as well. We've got a bunch of characters here that all go through some sort of transformation. Elsa goes through a transformation. She's no longer the scared Jew living in the wall. She becomes this confident, and she's accepted back out in the world.
Yeah.
Sam Rockwell's character goes through a bit of transformation as well.
He does. What an awakening he has. It's fantastic.
He goes from someone who was intent on dying on a battlefield to someone who's,
runs a daycare center pretty much.
And is pretty sympathetic toward Jojo and Elsa in the end as well. I don't know what it is about Sam Rockwell, but he does father figure characters so well.
He plays that incredibly well, very easily.
I think it's fair to say that we're all pretty...
Yeah, I've struggled to be objective with this one because I enjoy reading about the history of World War II. I also enjoy comedy, and I also enjoy the works of Taika Waititi. So for me, I was like, well, how am I not going to like it? So I have struggled to be objective about it. I think, like you, Alex, you say it is a little slower in the middle. It serves its purpose, but I've seen the film now about 4 times, and on the 4th time you go, I have seen this. Now that I know what it's setting up, I sort of don't need to see it. But obviously, the films are designed to be seen the first time round, so it makes sense that it's there, I think. I have no issue with it, ultimately.
Yeah. Here's a question for the two of you and anyone listening at home. This was a Fox Searchlight film, which makes it a Disney film. Is Hitler a Disney princess?
He's trying really... You should see his face. He is trying very hard to answer this question.
I want
The cogs are turning.
No, but he's definitely a Disney villain.
Yeah, he could,
there you go.
like the witch from Snow White.
He joins the ranks of Jafar.
Oh, there you go.
There we go. Now that we've completely... Yeah, I don't think we can do any more of these. I think we've done it.
Maybe Jojo's mum we can call the Disney princess.
I thought Thomas and Mackenzie would be the Disney.
Elsa.
Yeah.
Elsa?
Yeah,
Elsa.
yeah.
Elsa. Maybe
Yeah.
she's the Disney princess in all of
I
this.
think it may be better to not think of it as a Disney film, full stop.
No,
I think.
no.
More, even though it technically is, I think it's best not to think of it that way.
It's not on Disney Plus.
No.
Put it that way.
But
It would, actually,
It
here's
probably might be.
a question I had is obviously our protagonist in this film is a child. Do you think that children could watch this?
Ooh.
Or do you reckon they just would not? Do they need to have the understanding of history to be able to appreciate what the film is doing?
If you don't have that understanding, you are not going to feel the way that we probably felt.
A child probably won't know who the Gestapo were, so they won't understand the threat that is imposed when they turn up on your doorstep.
That's right.
I find that this film is never disrespectful to any of the history. I mean, it's disrespectful to Hitler because he's the one person who we should never, ever stop making fun of. But it's never disrespectful to, I think, the memory of anyone who perhaps went through this or anything. I mean, again...
It humanizes.
It does humanize them, and I think it raises some very excellent points. That, again, like, we've had a great discussion about this. I love this movie because you go, wasn't this joke great? And then you start thinking about the real world implications of it, and it just has a nice conversation to come after it, I think, which is nice.
It's a good time to wrap and work out our scores. Last week we had Volleyball Wilsons
Oh, yeah.
out of 5. Why not sandcastles? Should we go sandcastles this week?
Yeah.
Sure.
I don't know if it works with the theme of the
I
film
would
at
say
all.
we could do tropical hand grenades.
Ooh.
Tropical hand grenades.
So when they explode, they're just sand.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right.
Okay, yeah.
We'll go with that, yeah?
Let's go with tropical hand grenades. Sure. Why not?
Why not?
Matt, you go first.
The trailer, again, promised me this absurd comedy where a young innocent boy is best friends with an imaginary Hitler. And that was the promise, and I loved the promise of that. I got that. That absolutely delivered, and it also gave me this wonderful, almost fable-like story where this young innocent boy who represents, I think, a lot of people, both at the time and now in the present day, sort of has this kind of realization of reality, perhaps. Like you say, coming of age story, Steve. I subscribe to that as well. So I love this film. Like I said, I've seen it 4 times. I can't get enough of it. I'm going to give it 5 tropical hand grenades.
Okay. I'm stuck between 4 and 4.5 because I do feel like there was a bit of a slowness throughout the film, but I can't fault it on anything else because I did enjoy it so much. So look, I'm going to go with 4.5. It's really enjoyable. It gives you laughs. It gives you cry. It gives you tears. Can you give him cry? They use David Bowie's Heroes in the film at one point. And wherever you use that in a film, you will make me cry. And that's what happened in this film. So it's like a Sunday afternoon on the couch and it's raining. You know, you just sort of feel a certain warmth about all of that.
It's a very comfortable film despite the uncomfortable topics they bring up.
That's exactly right. And I think that's what really makes it special. Steve?
It gave me cry and it gave me laugh. 5 tropical hand grenades.
5 tropical hand grenades.
I don't think I could expand on anything else. Like you guys have, we've said it. It's just,
it's good.
Gave me cry.
It gave me cry a few times as well. I think we all cried. It's a good thing we didn't watch it together, really. We all just been crying in a puddle on the floor all together. That would have been, a bit awkward.
But it's not a thing where it makes you sad and feels you leaving like, oh, life is horrible.
It's such an uplifting film. It is really uplifting. You come out of it going, I feel really good.
So it's probably a good time now to wrap up things.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's been a wonderful time chatting again with the two of you. You lovely, lovely gentlemen.
Oh, well, thank you.
I'll bring up that. Where's that music? Oh, there it is.
Oh,
Matthew's serenading us again.
I'll walk you out.
You can always find us wherever you get your podcasts on Apple, Google, Spotify, all those subsidiaries. You can find us on Twitter, Matthew.
Which is Island Trailer.
Yes, we still haven't found the guy who's taken our Trailer Island. Oh, we'll find him, Steve.
We will find him.
You look so determined
With
to
the
find him.
efficiency of the Gestapo.
Oh, good Lord.
Oh, okay. Well, keeping on tonight's theme. That's excellent. You can visit our website, trailerisland.com.au. Find us on our Facebook page.
Yeah, we got a Facebook page. Trailer Island Podcast.
Yeah, that's the one. And send us a message. We'd love to know what films...
Always taking suggestions for films, yeah.
Yeah, films, documentaries, TV shows, or trailers. Maybe we should do a full episode just about trailers.
That could be interesting, yeah.
Maybe one day. Yes. Be lovely to get into the cinema soon, thanks to this global pandemic. But being on an island, we've been relatively unscathed.
That's right. The time is approaching.
I had a scare, but that's something else.
All right. I think time to wrap it up, fellas.
That was just sand.
Coarse and it gets everywhere.
Yeah.
I have been your host, Alex. I've been joined by...
Matthew.
And Stephen.
And thank you again for listening. And we will catch you on the next episode of the Trailer Island Podcast.
Arrivederci.
Goodbye.